Hello. Hi, everybody. We're live here for Books and Bites. Ring is feeling the moves today. So, as always, we have a book and a poem for you. Our poem is a Shel Silverstein poem called Housebroken. Housebroken. And our book is called The Relatives Came by Cynthia Rylant and Stephen Gamble. Yeah. So, without further ado, here is our first thing is our poem, and it's called Housebroken. The puppy's housebroken at last. Lord only knows he was needing it. You've trained him to go on the newspaper fine, but please not while I'm reading it. Ew. So the puppy goes to the bathroom on the newspaper, but it's gross if he does it while they're reading it. Ugh.
I don't get it.
So the dog, housebroken means the dog's like potty trained, but he did it while the guy was reading the newspaper. So he came and went to the bathroom all over the newspaper while it was in his arms. It's kind of gross. All right. And our book for you today is called The Relatives Came. I like this one because it's Memorial Day weekend. It's like a time we usually see a lot of family, but we're not really seeing too many family members now.
We put some pennies on graves.
We did.
From this nice man.
Yes, we did. But we're going to read this story called The Relatives Came.
It kind of looks like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
It does have a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang sort of feel to it. It's called The Relatives Came because we're missing our relatives, hi family, on this day.
The relatives came.
And this is actually from Maggie and Peter and baby Hattie when Hattie was little. So it's from your cousin. It says, Ring, we can't wait to see you at the beach. We're so lucky to be your relatives. So nice.
Wait, we're going to see each other at the beach?
This is from a long time ago.
Oh.
This is when you and Hattie were babies.
Oh.
All right. It was summer of the year when the relatives came. They came up from Virginia. They left their grapes. They left when their grapes were nearly purple enough to pick, but not quite.
Wait a second.
So their family's from Virginia.
One sec.
Sure.
Where are they driving to?
We're going to find out.
Are they driving to California?
I don't know. Let's find out.
That'd be a long drive.
That would be. They had an old station wagon that smelled like a real car, and they put it in an ice chest
A real car smells like bad stuff.
And in it, they put an ice chest full of soda pop and some boxes of crackers and some bologna sandwiches. And they came up from Virginia. Oh, yeah, they lost. Oh,
they dropped the bag.
No, that's a mailbox.
No, they dropped the bag.
Oh, yes, it does look like they dropped
broke a mailbox.
They left at 4 a.m. when it was still dark, even before the birds were awake.
4 a.m? What kind of person wakes up at 4 a.m?
If you got a long journey, that might be a good sign. Or maybe your children would sleep. They drove all day long and into the night. While they traveled, they looked at the strange houses in different mountains, and they thought about their almost purple grapes back home. They thought about Virginia, but they thought about us too, waiting for them. So they drank up all their pop, and they ate up all their crackers, and they traveled up all those miles, and finally, they pulled into our yard.
And instead, they crashed into the fence.
It does look like they need some help with driving. Aw. Then it was hugging time. Talk about hugging. Those relatives just passed us all around in their car, pulling us against their wrinkled Virginia clothes, crying sometimes. They hugged us for hours.
And then until it was time to go. And they're like, bye.
I don't think they're leaving that soon.
Oh.
Then it was into the house, and so much laughing and shining faces and hugging in doorways. You have to go through at least 4 different hugs to get to the kitchen, from the kitchen to the front room. Those relatives. You like the hugs. And finally, after a big supper 2 or 3 times around until we got to after a big supper 2 or 3 times around until we all got a turn at the table, there was a quiet talk, and we were in 2s and 3s throughout the house. 2s and 3s, yep.
2s and 3s.
That means little groups of chit-chats. The relatives weren't particular about beds, which was good since there weren't any extras. So a few squeezed in with us and the rest slept on the floor, some with their arms thrown over the closest person, or some with an arm across one person and a leg across another. It was different going to sleep with all the new breathing in the house. Look at that.
One guy doesn't have a shirt on.
Well, sometimes you sleep without your shirt.
He has his shirt. It's a button down.
Yep, so it's open. The relatives stayed for weeks and weeks. They helped us tend the garden, and they fixed any broken things they could find. Looks like that one's giving haircuts. We should invite him to our house.
I like that they fixed everything.
Mm-hmm.
The part that I hate is that they ruined the house.
I don't think they ruined the house.
No, they ruined the backyard.
Oh,
They crashed into the fence. They broke a mailbox. They dropped a bag.
Yeah. They're excited to get there. Oh. They ate up all our strawberries and melons and then promised we could eat up all their grapes and peaches when we came to Virginia.
Huh.
Looks like they're working together.
They're kind of nice.
Yeah, they're sharing.
Sharing. Not that much caring.
But none of us thought about Virginia much. We were so busy hugging and eating and breathing together. Look at the whole crew.
Breathing. So much breathing.
So many people in the house.
Yeah.
Finally, after a long time, the relatives loaded up their ice chest and headed back to Virginia at 4 a.m.
And dropped another bag.
We stood there in our pajamas and waved them off in the dark. We watched the relatives disappear down the road, and then we crawled back to our beds that felt too big and too quiet, and we fell asleep. Bye, relatives.
That's the end of every book you will ever hear. How long are we supposed to do books?
And the relatives drove on all day long and into the night. And while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses in different mountains. They thought about their dark purple grapes waiting for them home in Virginia. But they thought about us too, missing them, and they missed us.
I miss Aunt Sally.
Yeah, me too, baby. And when they were finally home in Virginia, they crawled into their silent, soft beds and dreamed about next summer. All right, friends, have a happy long weekend, and we'll see you here tomorrow. Bye.
Bye-bye. Wait, that was the end?
That was the end.
It was a short